Okay, hello everyone. Thank you for joining our next webinar with whatever number we're in right now. We did quite a bit of webinars in 2016, and it's always getting exciting every webinar we do. So today it's our first time doing a webinar together with our special guest. All of our previous webinars, our guests were on the other side of the computer in their own offices, their own homes, and today we decided let's do one together since our special guest here is in town, and I will introduce him very soon. However, I just want to touch base in some of the housekeeping items inside the page, how you can ask questions. So let me just open up that page real quick. And we have to the right of the screen where you are watching this live session, there's some instructions on how to post a question. So basically, you will click at a tab at the lower right corner that says online. It's a green tab. So if you click on that tab, you can type in your question, and I have another monitor here to the left that I will see your questions. I will go ahead and read out the questions that come through to the moderator, or if I can answer some of the questions, I'll be delighted to do so. However, that's the way you can ask questions, and for people that join in late, you can see the instructions on how to ask questions. So, okay, you can see the agenda right below this video, which is a very exciting topic for the audience that have RSVP'd. We have had private schools in higher education across the globe that has shown interest to join this webinar. So I hope you can make it. However, just so you know, this webinar will be recorded. We will send out an email at the end, right after the webinar. For people that have missed it, you can still watch the recording and still send us questions via email and so on. So let's go ahead and introduce our guest. I have, I usually come up with a short paragraph. I know these guests will be talking for a long time if we go over their biography, but I'll try my best to briefly introduce Joseph Maki, which is sitting right next to me, and Joseph is a Director of Education and Operations. He specializes in cross-functional team leadership for higher education, and he has extensive experience in examining the academic affairs, structure, and functions within multiple for-profit colleges targeted for acquisition by private investors. Very interesting. And also evaluating and recommending guidelines for key strategic areas. Now, he has done work across multiple states in East Coast United States and has worked in the private, nonprofit, and public sector, both. However, in the last 15 years, Mr. Maki's emphasis has been in higher education. So this was my, as brief as I can do, an introduction. Now, before I pass the microphone to Joseph Maki, and before we then indulge into the steps, how we, the steps that we have come up to increase your enrollment for your school, I'd like Mr. Maki to discuss a few very important points for private and public schools in terms of marketing, retention rate, building a brand, and a few others. And again, this is the first 30 minutes. We're gonna kind of talk with Mr. Maki in some of these points, and the other 30 minutes will be question and answer. So that's why I'm kind of rushing through this a little bit. So, Mr. Maki, it's all yours now.
Ridwan, thank you so much. It's a pleasure being with you. This has been a great topic in the education field for so many years now. We've had in the last 5 years, I go back to 2009, 2010, the higher education field has really gone through turbulent times. All right. So just to fast forward, and so we can stay on point, is that we have seen a lot of changes in the field, a lot of challenges in the field. All right, where we are seeing a lot of schools also being shut down as a result of the last 5-6 years, right, due to low enrollment, high cost, limited budgets, and so on and so forth. So a lot of these schools have been spending a lot of time really figuring out new strategies how to really improve enrollments. All right. So these strategies are so critical because we have old methods, old approaches, and we have, of course, new approaches. And we'll talk about those briefly. Mm-hmm. And by all means, cut me at any point if you think we need to really focus on certain aspect of the topic.
No, it's okay.
But what happened is that the approaches that these schools have been using all along in the past were working really well. And then, of course, times have changed since 2009, 2010, mm-hmm. all right, because of a lot of regulations, a lot of what you call it, excuse me, the changes in the higher education markets.
Sure.
We used to see a lot of investment, a lot of money going into, say, to improve or to increase enrollment. Student enrollment would go into the old methods of marketing, and that would be, for example, like TV ads, mm-hmm. radio ads, billboards, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, I remember those.
Yes,
a lot of TV ads. That's how I got into my last university, from a TV ad.
Exactly, yeah. And those worked really well at that time, right. You know, because the whole private institutions, private education that came into play. Mm-hmm. The last 15 years, all right, was to offer students something the traditional schools did not offer.
Got it.
All right, okay. Which is, of course, shorter program, faster graduation, mm-hmm. a lot of hands-on, okay. All right,
okay.
Because the demographics is really changing as well. Meaning nobody wants to go to college and take, for example, like 50-60% of the courses gen eds. They want really hands-on.
Right.
Long story short, things have changed. Since 2009, 2010, the industry, of course, has really been impacted in some form or another in a negative manner. So schools are looking for ways to really improve enrollments, all right? So the new strategies are being put in place, right, okay. And the old ones are no longer effective.
Okay.
Are we good so far?
Yep, we're good to go.
All right. So they're looking at different approaches on how to really make their institutions better,
okay.
All right? And that begins with building a brand. How to make that brand really stand out.
Okay.
They're looking at one of the most important tools has become now is like social media, one of the ways, all right, to attract students. Yeah. But it begins with building an effective and intuitive website. A lot of schools don't have intuitive and an effective website.
Yeah, let me just mention something real quick in terms of, you know, when you talk about websites, yes. I have had students that were ashamed to let other students know that they are part of a school because the website school was not well done, you know?
Correct.
This was a very interesting point, which is, again, it falls into your marketing the school and building a brand. So building an attractive and up-to-date website is very important, you know, just like Mr. Maki said. So.
Absolutely true, because that's what it begins. If you go to a school's website and it isn't intuitive, you lose interest.
Correct. Yeah.
If it isn't effective, but it allows you to really interact to some degree with this site, mm-hmm. they lose interest. Right. So we are seeing new trends, right? New trends and how we really go after new students and really bring them on board. Hopefully, they become, of course, permanent students.
Okay.
Unsurprisingly, they are heavily centered on the use of technology. By the way.
Okay.
All right. I'll give a simple example. Responsive website design is one of those. All right, yeah. And this is, of course, your area, Ridwan.
Yeah.
It allows a what they call it a website, or it's easy to navigate website that can be viewed on multiple devices and platforms.
Correct. Yes.
Right.
Yeah. That's right. So,
also, we are seeing, of course, a lot of emphasis on search engine optimization. Okay. Yeah. That is really, really something that every school, including every business, has to really understand in order to improve their clientele base. We are seeing a lot of use of web analytics, all right? Okay. Meaning it tells me there will be a lot of data points in the web analytics to tell me if the student really is doing well or not. All right?
Okay. That's tracking the data for the student.
Right.
Okay.
Anyone that doesn't use web analytics today will be at a disadvantage. That's a fact. We know that for a fact.
Right. So you can punch in as much marketing money as possible, and if you don't track the results, then basically you have no idea what worked and what didn't.
That's
and where
right.
you should put. Okay.
That's right. And this is basically goes against your return on investment, because I mean you need to really be able to put your fingers on the data and be able to make some sense out of it. Meaning, am I converting at 5% students, mm-hmm. or is it at 20% and 25%? And how? What is really attracting this traffic to me, and how I can interpret that data to make it, of course, beneficial and advantageous to me.
Okay. Got it. Okay.
Another is we're looking at, or like another trend via use of technology is strategic social media. All right. Meaning, how do we realize the return on investment when I use Facebook and Twitter?
Got it. Yeah.
So I'm putting a lot of money into it, but I'm unable to really understand how to interpret all that data, which of course links with the web analytics.
Correct. Okay.
Another one is there's a lot of emphasis on mobile development.
Okay.
All right. And as you know, and you guys are really good at this, which is of course, how do we make great amount of course content mobile friendly?
Right.
Right.
So
a student today wants to be able to access content regardless of the location.
Correct.
Make sense?
Yeah. And this one, it will increase engagement as well.
Yeah.
Which is important, you know, wherever the student is, if they're not close to the community and close to the courses that they are taking, then they will kind of lose interest. And of course, this goes towards improving their academic skills as well.
Absolutely. You know, and also we have to understand demographics, meaning this generation, the millennial generation, is different than mine and yours.
Correct. Yep.
Or at least different than mine. You're a young man.
No, so you can say I shaved today. My last webinar, I didn't shave as much. Okay.
But this generation is technology driven.
Got it.
All right. They want access to it regardless of the location.
Okay.
Regardless of where they may be. It could be in the top of a mountain. It could be at the beach. All right. They want that freedom, and the freedom is brought to them via the technology, because that's how they also learn. And they learn in bits and pieces, as opposed to my generation, which of course we used to read and read and read.
Mm-hmm.
Today, information has to be delivered on different platforms and in different ways.
Got it.
All right?
Yeah.
Meaning it has to be video enabled. It has to be probably gamification type, and so on and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to build a brand where you begin to really build a community with it, and that community begins to really come to you.
Yep. Yeah, we're going to talk about the community soon. That's a very important point. Okay.
Yes. Also, we are seeing a lot of videos,
Mm-hmm.
all right,
Mm-hmm.
as part of the learning process, and less words.
Got it.
That's how it works.
Okay.
In all honesty, take a look at YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
Take a look at lynda.com, Udemy, and those, and so on and so forth.
Okay.
There's a lot of emphasis on video. I know you and I have talked about this, and your product basically provide all of these great pieces to enhance the the engagement of students in classroom.
While watching the video as well.
Correct.
Yep.
Absolutely. So those are effective strategies being put in place, and less emphasis on, say, TV, radio, billboards, and so on and so forth.
Okay.
Go ahead.
No. So basically, some of the points you mentioned here is showing the audience the quality education that your school has.
Yes.
So when you say that the videos that you should produce should be intuitive enough, so the retention rate of the student is higher.
That's
They
right.
go from one quarter to another,
That's
and they
right.
can actually refer others to come in.
Yes.
So let's actually, these are amazing points. I know you probably have more, but I want to kind of go back and forth and shift the gears with the package and the steps that you and I have talked on how these schools, whether you are starting a new school or you have been in business for some time, how do you build a community that trusts your brand?
Correct.
And how does that community bring you more traffic and more enrollment?
And how you retain them.
And how you retain. That's a very important part. So
absolutely.
Can you go over that, the example that you have, the retention rate, like schools have a lot of...
Sure. The retention part, I mean, when you bring in a student to your school, there's a lot of work up front, right? From advertising, from meeting with the student, and so on and so forth.
Okay.
And once the student comes to your school, in the higher education language, we say that this is what we call a conversion rate, meaning a student that is now a prospective student who is now an active student has been converted from being interest to now active. So now he is a student. So when I advertise, all right, to say 15, 20,000 students, and I convert, for example, 100, we call that conversion rate.
Correct. Okay.
Now, in the industry, it has become quite expensive, meaning the median conversion rate, cost-wise, to a school is now at $2,200 US.
Wow.
Some schools, of course, that's the median. Some, of course, some costs are less and some costs are higher. And I know a school that I did business with a while back, their conversion rate was at $4,000 to $5,000 per student.
Wow. Did you hear that? That's $4,000 to $5,000 to get a student enrolled. That's how much money the marketing team will spend to get the student inside.
Correct.
Now imagine if that students leave the next quarter.
And that's the problem, because we know data indicates that the nation's overall first to second year retention rate stands at 66.8%. Meaning the first and second-year students, all right, you will retain probably 66% of those, and then you would lose 35%.
Wow.
And then, of course, which makes it even more worse is the persistence to degree, meaning the student who comes to school and graduates, goes through the entire program. It could be a 2-year program or 4, comes down to a dismal 45% graduation rate.
Okay, so the graduation rate
is even worse.
For students to go all the way through and reach the finish line is 45%.
And this is national.
Wow.
So what we're looking at here, there's a lot of emphasis on not only bringing the student to your school and how do you keep them engaged, and the important part is how do you retain them, because the drop rate is much more expensive than anything else.
Got it.
You would have to go back, and then of course it becomes a revolving door.
Got it. So when the students leave, all you have is their name and their contact information, but there's no way for you to kind of show your quality education that you are progressing. And that's what we're going to talk about. How you can keep a community together where they can see the brand growing.
That's correct. That's correct.
Okay, let me do this. Let me switch gears real quick. We have the next 15 minutes, I guess, for the first part of the session. I'm going to share the screen, and we are going to talk about the steps that Mr. Maki and I have put together to help your school grow. And remember, we have done this with other schools where we have over 200,000 students that we've helped other schools do this. So let me share the screen real quick, and everybody please keep your questions at the second part. I will turn to my here to the monitor where I can see the questions shortly, so I don't see them yet. I know there were a couple of them coming through. So let's go through this real quick. This is the package. This is the golden package for everybody to be able to build a community, build a trust, and increase enrollment at the end of the day. So when I'm sure you will see my screen, at least Google Hangout says that my screen is being shared, so I will trust Google. So if you look at this screen, this is at eyoungo.com/grow your school. A lot of this audience came through this, and then we referred them to this webinar, just so you know. And I'm going to go back and forth between these steps and some of the experience that Mr. Maki has had in his career. So,
Ridwan, call me Joe, please.
Joe. Okay, Here we go. So we have the first step is to find out what is your school. So again, the goal is to increase enrollment.
That's right.
Grow your school.
That's right.
So we have listed 4 steps: is finding what you're good at as a school, so you can actually show that to your community and give that as a value. So you build your brand, which is nowadays there's nothing more important than building a strong brand. Like you can, if you're Harvard, the brand is so strong that people compete to get there. So how do we do that for private schools where you're not Harvard, right? And finding the sweet spot. This is one of our first steps that we mentioned here. Sure. I'm just gonna go through the steps. Build a community. This is an online community, which is very different to maybe what you're used to. The radio ads, the TV ads, you're giving to the community, but you're not really building the community. They're gone. Once they watch the ad, there's no way for you to actually find out what their feedback was and also give them more value education to them.
It is one way.
It's one way. There you go. And also we just talked about the retention rate. If that student was a part of this community, you can keep throwing more material to them, more quality education, so they can see saying, oh, I'm missing on this. Let me go back to that school. And then we have establishing trust, which goes back to the brand. How do you establish or increase trust with your students or with your potential students, with your community that we call? So these students, these users, these parents are willing to say, you know what, this is an awesome education that I get see my son or my daughter gets the next generation job, their dream job. And that's establishing trust. And of course, at the end, we're talking about increasing enrollment. That's the goal. So if we can let's go one by one. So finding your sweet spot at a school. What can you comment on this? Like, what do we do? We go and talk to a school and see what they're good at. Can we just?
Yeah, what happens is that I'll tell you, every school has amazing educators. That's a fact.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
But what really happens in many schools is that you see a lot of silos, meaning education and admissions don't communicate well.
Got it.
All right.
Okay.
Marketing and education are not really on the same page. Career services and education are not on the same page, simply because you have silos. Now, what happens here is that you want to build a community.
Mm-hmm.
And when you build a community, it means every piece of your institution is engaged with the community and vice versa. That's how it should be.
Okay.
Right?
Right.
So when we talk about having the right sweet spot, you don't want to really be spinning your wheels and basically putting all kind of ads and not knowing the return. Right.
So let's take a specific example.
Yes.
Let's say your school is good at medicine.
Correct.
So you find your elite instructors are the one that you want to bring on board and provide some video lessons, some interactive modules, so they can see the power of the school, what they can provide.
This is a fact. It's a fact, because if you take a medical school, let's take one of the schools that I worked for. One of the courses is anatomy and physiology.
Okay.
All right. If you're going to rely on just book material to learn, all right, we know for the fact that method of teaching is not as effective as adding into it, such as videos to make it more engaging, adding into it, for example, level of lecturing that has embedded student response system, right? Okay. Now, what we have looked at is you would have your best instructor teaching the first and second term students. That's a condition if you want successful outcome.
Interesting. Okay.
All right. And then what happens is that you begin to embed a lot of videos, because videos enhance what learning.
Right. Okay.
Right. And not only that, it engages the student much better than just constant lecturing or go back and read the material afterwards. Right. So videos, because these videos tend to be short videos, say 2 minutes or 2.5 minutes, because if it is something pertaining to medical, it is seeing what they are supposed to be doing in the lab and afterwards.
Got it. Okay.
Putting it hands on, and people get engaged. People love it. And not only that, we can embed into them the student response system that tells us if the student is really grasping, all right, what the instructor has talked about, all right, and be able to measure, all right, and decide if 80% got it or 60% or 40% before the instructor move on to the next topic.
Got it. Okay.
With the help of technology, all right, all of this happens.
All right. Okay. So just so the audience knows what we are talking as the outcome that this package gives you is it gives you an online academy. I'm going to go into more details, like what does that mean? What is this? Yeah. So pretty much if you go through this package, you will have an online branded academy where you grab these instructors, put the courses together, put the material of the courses, and then the school will have this catalog with these courses that the community that they're going after they will come in and register for these courses at no charge. These are short and sweet. So these are like Joe said, it was 2 to 3 minutes videos inside the lessons. And the community or the users, the potential students will come in and register and find out, wow, here's all the lessons are laid out in this course. This is the instructors that I'll be learning from if I registered to the regular courses, to the bachelor degrees or whatnot. So I just wanted to point that out. That's at the end of the day, this package talks about how technically you can put an online academy together with some courses that you build a community, and you have access to that community at all times. You can engage with them. Let's say they watch a video, they do a quiz, and they get a grade right away because the system will auto grade them. But if they submit an assignment, then the instructor can go and critique it and start talking to the students.
Yes.
And remember, this is the community. They're not probably registered students yet. Even the students that are registered, they have access to this, so they can all come and refresh some of this material. But I just wanted to point that out. At the end of the day, that's kind of the detail on what the community will look like. It's a course catalog with courses inside that your elite instructors have put together.
Yes.
Okay. So did you how about the brand and the trust? Because we have 5 minutes left before we go to the questions and answers.
Sure.
Yeah.
What happens here is that if you teach the course passionately, like you should as a faculty member, right? You are engaging the student. The student is, yes, he or she is registered for the course for free. But of course, that is one way. This is only one what they call it, piece of the puzzle. What complements the entire practice is that relationship you build with the students, right? Not only that, when they begin to see the course is fun, they're learning, it's not difficult, all right? And there's a level of engagement from the faculty member with a lot of encouragement, because really education is all about encouragement, all right? It begins to build trust. Now that trust eventually evolves into what? The student wanting to come to your campus and see your campus as well at one point or another. All right, because it's not pushy sales. No, it is. I have my vested interest in you as a student to do well. And if this isn't for you, it's fine. But if it is for you, would like to really see you come to school and earn a degree, become, of course, a contributing citizen in the country or the city or whatever. Right. And that's how you begin to build a trust.
Yeah, I just want to interrupt. So what we're, because a lot of this audience might think that this package is only for online schools.
No.
This is for traditional schools, right? This is where you teach on campus.
Yes.
However, it's a great way for you to learn how to run an online course, because your community is going to be online, correct? So I just wanted to emphasize on that. This is for traditional classes for your school that you have campuses in your region, and building a community online, which we talked about social media and all of that. This is the best way to build that community that you can engage your potential students. Now, whether they want to do this online in the future or not, if you have an online degree, that's great. If you don't, this will be your best way to kind of test the waters. How does an online program looks like?
Yes, because we know for a fact a lot of institutions, colleges, universities who are small in size do not have an online program or programs.
Okay. Right.
So this is not limited to a school with an online platform. This is for every school, regardless if they have it or not. It is applicable to those schools. And by the way, a school that doesn't have an online program, all right, something like the Education on Go, where you build a community, you build trust, all right, is one of the best means to keep your costs, marketing-wise, low as much as possible, because it attracts a lot of students. And when we say attracts a lot of students, it could be probably in the thousands. Now you have access to a huge pool of students to really tap.
Correct.
Right? And then you are building a brand. And this is the key behind it. So a lot of small schools don't have online components. So this is applicable to them and more than anyone else, as a matter of fact.
That's right. That's right. So let's talk about some of the points here. We have building a brand. One of the points is what we're doing right now. We're actually talking to our community via a webinar. So a school can do a similar thing for their courses. They can set up a webinar and they talk to the students that have registered for that course once a week, once a month, depending on the engagement they want to have. So we put a webinar there, as we said, open hours. So open hours for a webinar, people can come in and just ask questions.
That's right. Absolutely.
And that will build a brand as well. Another one we have, answering questions inside the courses. So remember, the courses inside will have discussion boards. Cool. They will have, I'm just going to give you an example of a lesson. You will have a video, an assessment, if you want to assess students for that video, or an assignment right next to it. And then comments, discussion board. Let's discuss that topic. So to build a brand, you need your instructors to be engaged with the students. When somebody asks questions or answers to the peers, then your instructor, which is supposed to be your elite instructor, will actually come in and give constructive feedback inside, and they will get the value and say, wow, I'm learning by these free courses like I would do it into a regular course at another college.
Yes.
So that's building the brand. And we have provide evaluation student work, send out email updates to your community. When you have this kind of community, you can always keep them up to date for the next course you build, for the next online webinar you set up, etc. So that's pretty much talking about the brand.
Yeah, and you know, also, Ridwan, one important thing is that a lot of times a student enroll in the program, but they don't know exactly this is what they want. So if you get them exposed to it via the community first, meaning if a student wants to be, let's say, in phlebotomy versus, say, medical assisting or dentist, by taking a course or two, all right, and begin to see that interest is in that direction, then that is more success to them when they go to college, and they won't drop out.
Right.
A lot of times a student go into a program not knowing if this is the best program for them, only to find out, let's say 6 months later or maybe longer, well, I don't want to be in this field anymore.
Right.
So have a taste of it before you go into it, all right? And you get a lot of feedback from faculty and so on. It guarantees you probably being in the right field if you decide to go in that program.
Now this one, I know we're closing up on the first part of the session, but this is so important. I'm just going to turn on the camera, face the camera here. Let me stop sharing the screen real quick so you can see us. Stop sharing. Let's see, come back here. Okay, so what Joe just mentioned is very important, which a lot of students that I know, they are just getting to college without having an idea of what subject they want to complete. So if you have this community with these free online courses in different subjects, but especially in the subject that your school is good at, then the student for free can find out if they're talented in that area or another subject. And then you can push them saying, hey, look how you did in this course online. Look how you did in these 4 courses that you're offering online. There is no reason why you would not do great as a nurse maybe in this field, you know. That's a very good point. So the community, we forgot to insert that in here, but building a community will also filter the talent of the student. That's something that we should emphasize. So this was great. Thank you so much for these amazing points. This has been recorded, so for you guys that would like to watch the recording. Now the second part of this webinar is more about questions and answers. And I know there is a latency on this, so any questions you have, please feel free to ask, and I have a couple of them here that I will read out, and then we can take it from there. But feel free now, it's time to ask questions. And the way you ask questions is by clicking at the online tab at the lower right corner, type in your information. It might ask you for the name and email and the question, and then we'll see the questions here on the left side. So here we go. We got more people coming in and asking questions. So again, any questions you have, feel free to ask. And I'm gonna read out the first question here. How do you keep up with the brand name of your school? Let's say you have been in business for years and the brand has gone down. So let me read out. I'll be in front of the microphone. So the question is, how do you keep up with the brand name of your school for a school that has been there for years?
Sure. You know, education is no different than any other industry. All right. It begins top down, meaning you have to have a culture, and that culture has to be set up around its customer. Who is your customer? The student. That means everybody in the institution, from admissions to education to student services to accounting to financial aid, everybody has to be fully vested in the students. All right. So I'll give you a simple example. When I go to hire somebody, I need to make sure is that a candidate is going to fit my culture.
Okay.
If there isn't a good fit, I don't hire him. Okay. Because I want individuals that are passionate about what we do in this business.
So culture is an important part.
Culture is critical.
The brand. Okay.
That's right. Okay. And also you have to have a genuine leadership that believes in supporting the operations at the bottom.
Got it.
Because the problem we have is that many organizations operate where decision-making process is top down. All right. And the person at the bottom has to be part of the decision-making process to really enhance the school, enhance the service, enhance the product that you are basically selling. And who knows it better than the person at the operations level, such as faculty members, staff, financial aid people, the advisors, right? Admissions. What we have seen in the education side is that there's a lot of pressure on admissions to really enroll as many students as possible, because at some point it became a numbers game. Well, you know, that isn't healthy. So you have to have an equilibrium. You have to have a balance where you have to have good students, all right? It's going to be as if you have open enrollment, you allow them in, but you have to have a good support system to make sure students that are struggling, all right, they have programs to really get them improved in their deficiencies. But it is the culture that you build will make everybody partake in making sure the institution is a success. And that's the brand you build.
That's very interesting. So by having this online academy or community, then even financial aid people, admission, everybody can get into these courses and find out what really are students doing inside, and get to know them and blend in with the culture.
That's right.
I think that's a very interesting point. Okay.
And really what it's all about also is the level of transparency you have within the organization.
Got it. Okay.
Meaning the more you are transparent, the more you are trusting. All right. And everybody would give you 150% because you will end up having an engaged workforce in your company.
I got it.
That's so important. And then who wins at the end? Everybody. And most important is we're in the business of educating students, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we can see them succeed in life.
Right.
That's the intention.
Yeah. So I guess let me just throw it back to the audience, is how important is to have this online academy, which you are providing culture. What I heard from Joe, you are creating culture inside the community and aligning culture with your staff that you already have.
Correct.
And getting together with everybody, because if you have an organization with, who knows, a hierarchy, that your organization maybe 1,000 people that goes in and do operational stuff, then how do you all get together into your community as an organization to keep up the brand? So this is very, very nice. Good question, by the way. That's an awesome question. Okay, we have more piling up, so let's ask this. Okay, so what about when you start a new school? Is it a different approach? Let's say you are starting a new religious school. The question is.
From my perspective, no, there's no difference. What matters the most, all right, is your level of honesty and transparency and caring to ensure that there's going to be a level of student success in your school. And everybody is on board.
Okay.
Now, a new school has its own challenges, of course, all right, and a lot of them tend to be financials. But like any other kind of business, you are going through what we call the teething process, all right, and then of course you begin to build a clientele base, and then you begin to grow. All right. Schools are no different than a typical business, but what matters is the trust you build with the students. I'll give you a simple example. One of the schools that I worked at, all right, when we acquired that little school, the referral rate was about 9-10%.
Okay.
All right. So it was very expensive to bring in new student because it became a revolving door. When we acquired this one school, we focused heavily on, because we were a small school ourselves, we didn't have a huge budget to put into marketing. So there's a lot of emphasis on building relationships with the students.
Got it. Okay.
To a point where we had a lot of activities, right? We brought in their parents. We got them involved in a lot of things. Okay. And most important is that we were very honest. I mean it sincerely. Okay. All right. And how we basically provided them the service and the good education. And most important, all right, is that eventually that number from 8-9%, 10% referral rate went up to almost 40% when I resigned at that time. It was 40%. That is an increase of from 10% to say 40% referral rate. Saved the company lots of money in what? In advertising, such as TV, radio, and everything else. Got it. Yeah. Almost 50% of my student base is now coming to my school based on referral, because it's the reputation we build. The relationship we build, the trust we build. And we were very transparent. And I go back to it. It doesn't matter if it's a small school, mid-sized school, or large school. Once you take your focus off this student, you lose. Right. So it's a 24-hour really process, because you're either in it for the best of everybody, including the student, or you're out of it. And many schools have failed that simply because they lost focus on the student. Gotcha. Very interesting point. Give them good service, and students don't ask for much. What they care about is that they are being taken care of on your campus. Okay, great. I guess we get comments of saying great presentation, great pitch. Somebody said great pitch. The next question is about, you say that building a community is building an online academy with courses. What if we have no idea how to do that? Is somebody going to help us? I guess I can answer that question. So when we say building a community, we mean you have your own online academy with courses, okay? And that's what ED-on-Go, the platform, is about helping you build an online academy with all the tools inside to manage courses, manage instructors, and have students get enrolled from your course catalog. You can even put paid courses out there. So let me go back
Hand holding, yes, that's a good point. Thank you for mentioning that. So let me actually share the screen one more time because I want to show you a couple of academies that are out there, and then also mention one of the academies we're working with in Africa. I think it's a great story to mention here. So let me share the screen one more time here. Okay, share. Okay, so you will see my screen again. So an academy is really, here's my academy. I have put an academy for myself together. So if I go to my name, here you go. So here's what an academy will look like, okay? If I go to my name, my first and last name, you can point your own domain when you kind of run your online academy, Didiongo. And I have put a price for my courses. Now, again, you can give your courses for free or put a small price to help you out. So I put a price here, and I'm not trying to promote my academy. This is not the, the reason, by the way. Let me go inside and log in just so you can see. Yes, let me do this. Okay, I think that's right, login and password. Yeah. So, okay, I'm gonna go back now to the course catalog again. So the academy will look like this. Okay, you can have a free course or a paid course. And if you put a free course for your online community, then you will get a number of students that will take your courses, and how the courses look like inside. It's very intuitive. But let me just show you a few other academies. Let's see. Ooh, we have a lot of them. Let me see which one I can show here. There's one. This one, see, notice this one has locked their courses, and they are not displaying how many students they have inside. Let me see. I know we have a MOOC that has a lot of students. Here's a MOOC that has quite a bit of students inside in each course. And you can see this is, now notice this is in a different language. So for the audience that are international, you can translate the entire application to a different language. You know? So anyways, I just wanted to show you some of the samples on an academy. Now, we are here to take you through the journey of getting the academy up and running, train your instructors how to put the content together, how to put the videos together into an effective e-learning format, how to put the assessments together, and then how to deploy this into Ediongo. That's we're gonna handle that inside this package the entire time, and make it ready for you. We will also create a responsive website for your academy as your landing page. So if you don't want people to land into, I just remember a very nice academy, which here we go, it's skillnatic.com. This one is actually one of the best examples what this package will be about, okay? So Skillnatic is this brand that has gathered different instructors or different content partners and put them into one place. And here's an intuitive, easy to use website that talks about, hey, do you want to get trained in these courses? Here's the list of courses. You go to all courses. Here's now how that academy will look like. So that's what the package is gonna be. We will put the website along with these courses that your instructors will build, and you can give these courses for free or put a price on it. I just wanted to actually show them in action what that academy looks like. Do you have any comments on that, or should I?
I'm good.
Okay, yeah. Great.
Good question.
All right, so again, feel free to post any questions by clicking at the tab at the lower right corner and ask any questions that you have. I am looking at them here on the right side, so let me go to the list one more time, dashboard. All right, let's see this one. Okay, thank you for your comment. A lot of people are giving us great comments, so if I can. Okay. Okay, so I don't see I see more comments saying great this, great that, awesome webinar. I don't see many questions. I don't see any more questions, to be honest. I thought that these messages are questions, but people are just praising the the session. So I guess for the next, we got about 10 minutes, but we can wrap it up earlier if we don't have any more questions.
But we can talk about the venture in Africa.
Oh yeah, let's mention that.
Sure.
Okay. So yeah, so there is this. There's an organization we have set up great relationship in Africa, in a country called Nigeria. Everybody knows Nigeria, which the population is, what is it, 200 million people.
200 million people.
And this organization, I will mention the name, it's called Academia. And they have started to put together a community that we talked about, an online course catalog for students to be able to work from home in the tech industry. So this is really taking advantage of the deficit throughout the world of software engineers and programmers, that the country of Nigeria now can produce students that they will be able to attract remote jobs and grab some of that budget inside the country that affects the economy in the long run, you know. So in the organization, Academia, they have, of course, they jumped into a plane and they came to visit us here. We had a 1 week's engagement here together in Orlando, Florida. This is where we are located right now. And Joe was a part of the discussions. And the goal for this organization is to produce software engineers so they can do freelance work or join some of the big corporations outside the country as software engineers. Now, if you want to add anything into this, but
yeah, sure. The school itself is very optimistic that this package that they are receiving from Education on Go, the projection is going to have probably, like, expecting about 10,000 students a year that will join the community. But if I'm not mistaken, this is on the low end side based on your past experience.
I believe so, yeah, because we're talking about 200 million people. I know this organization operates in a area where there are about 30 million
city, yes,
population.
Correct.
So we're probably looking into hundreds of thousands of students in the next couple, 3 years. So
and also there's a level of if you go internationally, the all countries populations tend to be so hungry for education.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's a fact.
Right.
And we know for the fact a lot of the offerings that are going to be used or provided by Education on Go for this one company overseas, all right, fall in line with what the market needs badly, mm-hmm. such as, of course, folks in IT, mm-hmm. all right, in other fields such as project management and so on and so forth. Okay. If I'm not mistaken, what they're going to experience is something that is duplicate to what you have put together in Al-MOOC.
Yep,
correct.
In Eastern Europe. Yep.
Correct. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, the number has grown from.
It has now about over 60,000 students.
Yes.
And it's the same approach. So it's exactly what we're telling you guys, an approach where you give free courses to the community sees the quality of education, and then they refer others. And now the countries that we hit in Eastern Europe are nowhere to Nigeria. These are less than 5 million people. Now we're hoping in Nigeria with Academia, the numbers of enrolled students will really go a lot higher. And so I want to go back and re-emphasize on the online community in terms of what it means. Just for you guys that have joined a little late, it really means to build an online academy like you see here. And then go inside and deploy the courses, which is videos and assignments and quizzes and so on. So let me go back here. If we have any more questions, or we can wrap it up as the end point. So let's see, messages. Australia, okay.
Ridwan, if I may add,
yes.
While you're looking at the questions, sure. This is for folks listening listen to the webinar. Mm-hmm. What really got the folks in Nigeria interested in Education on Go package that you are offering is very straightforward. It's the simplicity behind it. And the hand-holding piece behind it as well.
Got it.
Because I know for a fact those individuals are new to it, and they don't have the means, they don't have the expertise, they don't have the resources to do it themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And they were looking for a service that offers them something that, of course, you offer. And they basically decided to go with your organization simply because it provided them end-to-end service, or provisioning from end-to-end provisioning kind of service for them to really focus on the core business, all right, and have this community being built with the assistance of Education on Go.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a really selling factor, because the key to it is the long-term relationship that they wanted from this venture.
It's amazing the diversity of the visitors that we have. I can see them here. They're from Algeria, a lot of US. There is visitors from, what is that, Bosnia and Herzegovina. There's Africa and India. So it's great. So one of the questions, which is a great question, is about building content into a different language.
Yeah.
How do we support that? Of course, we mentioned the system. So the system does give you the capability to translate in any way possible. So let's go back here again. I have to share it one more time. So if I go back to the system, I just want to point out, and again, I'm going to go to my own academy here. Inside the tools that we have here, if you scroll at the bottom, there is an app called Language. That means that you can translate anything you see in the platform to whatever language you like. And you saw this one is translated into Albanian. You see, like my default academy has, like, this one is in English. Of course, it's a US-based company. This one is a US-based company. It's in English. However, you can translate to whatever language you like. And that happens here. Now, as far as building content into your own language, how do we evaluate if, you know, you brought in an instructor from medicine and that instructor build a video in your own language? That's something that you would have to have your own subject matter experts kind of evaluate the content. But we can make sure that the technical part of it, producing that video, is professional. Producing the assessments are in a professional e-learning format, and so on. So this is a very good question. So we would need help from your local subject matter experts to kind of evaluate if the content or the speaking in that language is done correctly. Of course, we can try to reach out to people that can do the translation, so we can find out and give you feedback on the first video. But you know, usually it's really your own subject matter experts that evaluate the quality of the video in terms of, you know, talking and the audio, etc. You know, so I guess we can wrap it up. The messages that I see here, there's quite a bit of messages. It's really more comments than questions. So thank you for your comments, by the way. And I know people can watch the recording, so thank you so much. And for the end, I just want to say, please, if you have any other questions, don't hesitate to email us. Now, since I'm sharing the screen, let me just let me pull up a new document here that you can email us at this. Let me see. I'm write down the email. So here's my email that you can use to email us. So I'm sharing the screen right now. They will be able to see this. So any questions you have, I misspelled the Yango. Any questions you have, feel free to send me an email, and then you mind if I write your email here too? So that is before. What is the email before I copy and paste?
Mine is joseph.mackey@gmail.
Joseph.mackey@gmail. There you go. So these are the two emails for any questions you have, how to get started with this package. Any questions for your school that we can be a help, please feel free to ask via email, or we can even jump on the phone if you follow via email. So thank you so much, Joe. I really appreciate the time, and this has been great. We should do this more often.
Absolutely.
And it's our first time doing a presentation together with the special guest. So it's been great. I guess you want to say something at the end, or should we just?
No. Thank you so much for listening. I hope my contribution was very beneficial to you. You have my email as well. You feel free to email me if you have questions in relations to education, in relations to education on Go as well. Would love to really assist you in any way we can. And thank you so much for taking the time and listen to our webinar.
All right, from Orlando, goodbye to wherever
Bye,
you
guys.
are. We'll see you next time.